Do you have any information in regards to land grabbing, or you're aware of any person who has been evicted and their property destroyed because of land disputes? Report to Witness Radio through our numbers 0414-697-221 or WhatsApp 0745-965-765, or you can report directly to our website on www.witnessradio.org. Just click on the map, follow the direction, click on the map indicating the individuals and the land being grabbed. Click on that word, report evictions. Then report any victim of land evictions. Thereafter, search for your area of residence on that map. Click your area of residence, then a red dot will indicate. Click the red dot and fill in the form, then save your input. Don't forget to attach the picture of the grabbed land in question, then upload to send. Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
In a world racing toward clean energy, who's left behind? Welcome to Eyes on a Just Energy Transition, the program that highlights on Africa's journey toward a fair and inclusive energy future.
Hello, our dear listener. Welcome to Witness Radio, your trusted voice. You are listening to Eyes on Just Energy Transition, where we take you on an informative journey of energy transition across Africa. And this is the Witness Radio series program, the media in the renewable energy. In this series, we are using the power of the media to shine a light on Uganda's journey toward clean, sustainable energy. To listen to us, visit our website www.witnessradio.org or visit Google Play Store and download the Witness Radio app. And in case you'd like to reach us out, please chat with us on our WhatsApp +256 745 965 765 or by calling us directly on +256 414 697 221, and we'll hear from you, or on all our social media platforms. Now, as you may know, Uganda is among the countries in Africa that are on a journey transiting to renewable energy. This transition promises to deliver vast socio-economic benefits to African countries, improving energy access, creating jobs, and boosting energy security. But to achieve this country must make a great shift from fossil fuel technologies to a more sustainable, climate-friendly power strategy aligned with the Paris Agreement and low carbon growth. And in this program, we bring you different renewable energy experts, partners, beneficiaries, and individuals to enlighten us as they share with us their experiences about the transition journey of the renewable and clean energy. One thing you need to understand is that oil and gas are also fossil fuels that countries are struggling to control. But in Uganda, oil development is a hot cake that is hoped to contribute much to the country's economy, and so calls for proper strategies of how to manage it, as it has already displayed signs of environment destruction and human displacement. And so today we bring you a conversation about a petition by a coalition of climate activist groups and affected communities who marched and petitioned TotalEnergies at their headquarters in Johannesburg. Now, one of the key messages in the petition is that TotalEnergies' oil and gas expansion has caused environmental destruction, land dispossession, and human rights violations under the false promises of development and progress. Our colleague Tony Katende spoke to Abiud Onyach, the communications specialist, Stop ECOP Coalition, concerning the petition, and now we bring you what transpired. But before we do, let's first go for a commercial break, and when we return, we'll listen to the conversation.
Do you want to learn more about the legal nitty-gritty of land laws? Benefit from our programs at Witness Radio. We will teach you how you can protect your land from land grabbers. Are you a human rights activist? Do you want the voice of the voiceless to reach the authority responsible? Tune in to the People's Radio, Witness Radio. Listen to Witness Radio addressing land issues in your community on matters of land development that do not affect the people and the environment.
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
You're listening to Eyes on a Just Energy Transition.
Welcome back from that commercial break. And now let's listen to the conversation.
And we sought to reach out from you just to have a feel and a digestion of the event that happened yesterday, where activists went to the headquarters of Total just to deliver a petition. So, we wanted to hear from you about the event, why actually you thought of doing that, even the timing of the G20 summit. We want to understand from you why you did so, and what do you aim to achieve from that activity?
Okay, the march has been planned for some time now, but they were looking for what has been happening. Let me take you a bit back. So since the Kick Total Out of Africa event that happened in Uganda, there has been a serious desire for movements across Africa to unite in speaking with one voice against fossil fuels. Because we realize that it's one thing for this topic of campaign to be talking about the East African crude oil pipeline. It's another thing for a different campaign to be talking about the Cabo Delgado, the Mozambique LNG. It's another thing for another group in West Africa to be talking about what the impact of Shell is having there, and so on and so forth. So what brought the Kick Total Out of Africa together in August was that the thinking was that let's first go for one company that has got a bigger footprint in the continent and deal with that, then move on to the next. And so Kick Total was based off of a number of different countries where Total's impacts are visible, and coming together collectively to say that the continent is tired of the 100 years of their abuse. And so after the Kick Total Out of Africa, this was piggybacked on that. The conversation continued and people were saying, so what do we do after this? And what are the big moments? And then we realized that in tomorrow, actually, Saturday and Sunday, there's G20. And you're familiar with the G20, right? And this is the first time this kind of meeting is being held in Africa. And I think only South Africa is a member. Yeah, it's being held in South Africa, in Johannesburg. Yes. Tomorrow and Sunday. This is the meeting of the leaders, because there's also the other summit that had the people, but the one that is having the government officials is the more key one. And so they wanted to demonstrate on the actual days, but they knew it was going to be difficult, because I remember when they tried doing this during the BRICS, the British, Russia, India, South Africa, and China summit. It was restricted and they couldn't move. And I remember even me, I was there the year before and we were confined into some ground somewhere. So I think so that they can be able to hit the headline and not be, caged somewhere or restricted. He said that they'll do it a day before the actual meeting, so that they can be able to literally go into the CBD, go to the offices of TotalEnergies. And they started rightfully at Standard Bank, because Standard Bank is funding a lot of TotalEnergies fossil fuel expansion work, including the Cabo Delgado, including the topic of, the ECOP project as well. So the protest began there, and then they headed all the way to the TotalEnergies to deliver this letter. And so that was the overall point. The main point was to take advantage of that moment that the G20 is here, get media houses to not ignore that, so that even as the meeting is happening, they get to understand that what are they discussing, and is fossil fuel part of their discussions, and do they understand the harm that these projects are having on the communities, and what is the way forward. Even as they have this, it was a way of trying to impact the conversations of the G20. It might look very, it might not look as powerful, I guess, for us who are seeing it from this point, but in the South African media, it was a big deal when people were seeing that. Yeah, and so I think that was the objective, the overall objective.
Thank you so much. Just to take you back about the Kick Total out of Africa, how successful was that campaign?
So it depends on how you define success. So, if you're looking at it in terms of media coverage,
yes,
then there are pockets that were successful, other pockets were not. Because I think again, because South Africa is a very militant country, and militant in the sense that their workers' union is very strong. And remember, they just got independence in '94, so it's still a fairly new country, and it has not yet been much of their institutions have not yet been co-opted, like say Kenya, Uganda, and the rest that have had their independence for a while. So their media is very vibrant, and in the sense that they had a lot of media hits from that KTOA. In Kenya, it didn't land much, also because here it wasn't the people who were leading the event here in Kenya were the church, the Laudato Si movement. They're a religious group, and the action they did was a vigil where they went and they had a prayer somewhere in the basilica. So while a number of faithful showed up, it is not something, you know how news operates. If it leads, it leads.
Yes.
So it is not something that is confidential. They don't see why they should cover it. And that's why in South Africa it was covered heavily, because it was more of a protest. In the other regions, there were events. So it would be covered, but very short segments would pick it, because a lot of the countries played football. Like in Senegal, there was football. In Togo, there's football. In Tanzania, they played football, and the whole idea was to kick Total up. So it was very symbolic.
Okay.
But if you want to look at success in terms of creating awareness, in terms of mobilizing, in terms of movement building, it was very successful. Because in places like Congo, DRC, where they were riding bicycles within stretch within their street, people were asking, what is this about? Or getting to know what's happening, drawing interest. They got to explain about the oil blocks that will likely be sold and be connected to ECO. So helping people understand why even at DRC are interested in this ECO fight, because they know how it's going to connect to the oil blocks. Yeah. So we saw the same thing in Ghana. So ideally, the success for me, as I look at it, was that beginning of movement building across the continent.
Okay. Where
people in Togo know something is happening in South Africa, something similar is also happening in Uganda. We are not alone. The communities that are at the front lines are coming together. That was success.
Yeah, actually, I also thought of maybe Total stopping to engage in this kind of what you term as harmful investments. Are there signs of reduction in its involvement?
So what is happening there? That is so on the financial side. Things have gone very bad for this project. I don't know how much you know. So let me explain it for you. One, I don't know if you knew that at the beginning the project was 3.5 billion, the total cost of the project. But because of the pressure we put with our supporters, the project has delayed because of the banks that were not willing to come in. And so what that did is that the project now is costing upwards of about 5.7 billion. So that has increased the risk tremendously. Additionally, because of this inability of the global north banks to come in, what has happened is that they had to change the debt to equity ratio. Now, at the beginning, Total was supposed, the debt to equity ratio was 6:4, meaning they were going to get 6 from loans and 4 they were going to be giving it themselves. But now that one shifted to I think about 5.7, where now they had to dig into their pockets more, so that what now they're requesting from loans is lesser compared to beginning. But now, by the end of last month, Bank Track released a report that we shared, that now Total was going to fund the entire thing for themselves. And this is following a bond that they sold their bond in the market.
Yeah, but
at the end of the
But when you look at the project is ongoing, the construction has already started. What do you have to say about that?
Yes. So the danger with that, and the reason why it's a very sad scenario, is that Uganda is likely going to be left with a stranded asset. Because Total, at this point, what they want to do is to just complete this thing and hopefully get fast oil. And if that proceeds, so we have two scenarios. Assuming that proceeds and they are able to get it off the ground, then now what is likely to happen is to shift the gears into what communities, how do they get to make sure that the communities are compensated nonetheless. Because what Total is going to do, I don't know if you're familiar with the ECOP Act, it is giving Total 10 years tax holiday. Now what they're likely to do is that by the time they will get as much oil as possible, if it's even possible, right? Within the first 5 years, and then say that they have already recouped and they no longer need to continue the project, meaning that the government will never even be able to recoup anything in terms of tax revenue. And this is now the next steps that we are going to help communities understand, and particularly the citizens of Uganda and Tanzania. But this is happening. And when they talk about helping, with energy, meeting energy needs in the country, that's also another lie, because the whole thing is being transported out to meet the energy needs of the global north. So that is our biggest and fear and saddest reality, is that more than likely, and this is where Total is giving its own back, is that they're going to complete it. Either sometime next year or the year before. They're talking about next year. I doubt it'll happen next year. And their main source of help now is China. And this is why now we are also increasing our momentum on China not to provide loans. So from where they've reached, to be honest with you, from my own personal thinking, I think they will finish it. I don't see how they will not finish it. Okay. But I also suspect it's going to have a lot of problems. Okay. A bit too late, even for the lawmakers to try and do anything about it.
Yes, before we proceed, let's go for a commercial break, and when we return, we shall proceed with the conversation.
The world is moving toward renewable energy, but will it be just for everyone? Tune in to Eyes on a Just Energy Transition every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. East African Standard Time, where we explore how Africa can embrace clean energy without leaving communities behind. Because justice must fuel the transition. The energy future is here, but who benefits?
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
Witness Radio.
You're listening to Eyes on a Just Energy Transition.
Welcome back from that break. You are listening to Eyes on a Just Energy Transition at Witness Radio, where we take you on an informative journey, and at the moment, focusing on Uganda's renewable energy transition plan. And we continue with the conversation. Tony Katende talking to Abied Onyach, the communications specialist, Stop ECOP Coalition, explaining about the activities of TotalEnergies.
Several times Total has been accused of causing or participating in criminalization of activists challenging the project. And how true is this accusation? Has it been seen anywhere?
Yeah, the accusations are true because Total has never really negated these claims, other than saying that refusing every report. Because remember, this is not topic of campaign that is producing these reports. These are reports that are produced by the Human Rights Watch, which is an independent body. These are reports produced by the Global Witness, which are independent bodies. And these are reports that have also been produced by faith bodies like Greenpeace, when they talked about as if nothing is sacred, where people who are forced to, exhume bodies of the dead, put into it. It was just inhumane. So there are many things they've done that have been reported by people outside of the campaign. And all they've done is to refute. Even the African Censored. I don't know if you're familiar with the African Censored.
Uncensored.
It's an investigative,
African Censored.
Yes. It's a Kenyan investigative media house that revealed as late as I think November last year, early this year, that Total knew about the impact of the activities in the Murchison Falls. Okay. And they suppressed that information. Their own report, do you know how you get your people to check your system? Their own report confirmed the dangers of whatever they were doing, but they suppressed it. This was reported by African Ancestors. So it is not the Supreme Court campaign commissioning these people. They're doing that work by themselves. So to me, from where I sit, if someone says that you've done this harm, should come and say, I am in this place. Where are they talking? What are they saying? You get that's where you can refute. But for you to just say, no, that is not true, and you do not provide evidence, because these people have communities who are speaking. As I talk to you, there's a court case where Fiego is representing, I think, 86 families, where the government has decided to evict them by force without even trying to understand that some people are dead. So there's an issue of, who owns the land. Some people are saying the compensation is not fair. But they're doing this on behalf of Total, because the government cannot just do that for the sake of that. These things are being done on their behalf. And to show you why this is a very credible point, realize that now Total is in court. Total have been, a French court has found them culpable of war crimes that happened in Mozambique. And the reason is because everything the state did it on their behalf. Because you see, the state was protecting the LNG Mozambique gas. And so people who, of course, it's complicated because Al-Shabaab were shooting at people, and then the state, rather than protecting the people, chose to protect the LNG gas and forget about the people. And some of them also are accused of killing the citizens themselves who are trying to gain access. And it's the same thing with the Kingfisher area, where, although this is not necessarily Total, but Sinop, that manages the area, has also been accused of, using the army, the people, what are they called? What do you call the army in Uganda? People's Defense Forces.
Yeah, UPDF. Uganda People's Defense Forces.
Yes. Okay. And it's been covered on the time they banned 60 boats.
Wow.
So the army cannot, on its own accord, decide to go and ban boats of fishermen. For what reason? Other than to do it on behalf of Sinop. Do you get the logic?
Yes, I do.
Precisely. So that is how we also concluded, because we do not think that a government can decide to just brutalize its own people.
Okay.
With no cause.
Thank you so much. Just to take you back shortly to the event yesterday, do you think there will be registration of success as we are soon, as South Africa is soon hosting the G20 leaders? Do you think the protest may achieve some success?
I certainly hope so. That is what we can only hope that it will. But we will be monitoring how particularly the media in South Africa is covering that event. And we'll also be keeping in touch with our movement partners there to see whether they have any additional planned actions. I know for a fact that 350 South Africa is very much involved in some actions. I do not know whether they're not necessarily tied to that particular action, but just to show you that there is momentum. Even though it's not necessarily about the same coalition, but there are different groups in South Africa that are also keen to just not necessarily disrupt that event, but bring to their attention what communities on the ground are saying. Because what is really coming out, even when you think about COP30, is that increasingly people are becoming aware of the elitist way in which governments are run and the corporate culture. This is why you've noticed people making noise about the fact that there were more lobbies, fossil fuel lobbies, at COP30 in Brazil than the actual delegates. And so people are concerned. In the past, people didn't care about these things. People didn't care about who is attending COP. People didn't care about Africa Energy Week or things like this G20. But they are realizing that the guys at the table are no longer focusing on the people. And this is how this inequality gap keeps growing. And so the majority who are suffering are now coming together and are beginning to realize this as a crime and are beginning to call this to order.
Okay.
And so I think we are likely to see more and more people speak to these things, and we're likely to see the media in South Africa also cover that. At least that's my hope. We'll and let you know.
Thank you so much, sir. Just one other thing. Environmentalists and climate activists have oftentimes accused governments and investors of promoting fossil fuels. And their demand is that governments or investments should be investing in renewable energies. And we are seeing the Ugandan government continuing to promote the oil development activities or oil investments. In your observation, how do you see this? Does it take us any further, or because the government says it would promote, it would bring in a lot of income to the government, and on several occasions the activists say these fossil fuels have a lot of consequences. So how do you assess the duo?
The reason why we, especially now that we are saying that, first of all, I think there's a conflation here. What we've been saying that I think the oil industry is only too happy to confuse people about, because they're trying to create, to make us look of the environmentalists look like crazy people. When they say, but the world is running on fossil fuels, are you going to drop your car? I think they're missing the point. One of the things we've been saying, number one, is that there should be no new fossil fuel. We're not saying that abruptly end everything that is happening in the world. There will be total collapse, right? So that's why we're talking about a just transition. That those that are running on fossil fuel should give us a clear timeline of when they are closing those fossil taps, so that we can deal with the GHG emissions, save the climate from the warming and all this. But we're saying that to show commitment, you cannot start new fossil fuel projects while we are talking about a crisis, a climate crisis, that you must end. You must be now, the only thing you should be doing is investing in renewable energy as you close down the fossil fuel or come up with a timeline for the closing of the fossil fuel projects that are running. That's number one. Number two, to your direct question now, if you look at the cost-benefit analysis, EACOP is not even commercially viable. Because you see, when the government is saying that it's going to be profitable, you must ask profitable in what sense? In the early 80s, maybe 60s, it was profitable. But even then, it was a resource cut in Africa. And the reason why oil is always a resource cut in Africa, even back when it should have been profitable, is because the production or how oil investments are done in Africa is such that it ends at the raw level. Like, it's only extraction. There's no refinery. There's no, if you build a refinery, if let's say they had started the way Museveni initially intended, that they build a refinery, we would be having a very different conversation. This one I'm telling you personally, from a personal point of view. Because you'd be saying you're refining the oil, you're giving it value addition before it goes to the market. So you get the full benefit of that resource. But you see, when you're taking it in its good form outside, when you will be buying it back in form of petrol and whatnot, you don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But even without even going at looking at the value chain and looking at just the project as it is solely, based on what I've told you, that what these TNCs, that the transnational corporations like TotalEnergies, is that they come and they tell a government, force a government to export only, like what they've done with Uganda. That way, they do not have to invest in technology, they do not have to invest in infrastructure, but they do not need to invest in the value addition, which is what will make the thing competitive or profitable. So what they do is just take away the resource as it is. And in the taking of the resource, the government takes all the risks. So the risks here, communities being disrupted from their land, communities losing their livelihoods, undermining an entire sector, like the tourism sector. Marks and Folds was giving Uganda almost 5 billion yearly. That is completely disrupted. They do not look at the opportunity cost of that. You're disrupting an entire hospitality industry that was also dependent upon those tourists. You've also disrupted agriculture. You're disrupting nearly 4 economic sectors for one sector. And yet this sector is not even competitive. And then what happens also is that should there be oil spills or whatever, it is the host country that is left responsible to deal with it. And with the clause that the EACOP Act provides, Total will have a 10-year tax holiday. So the government is not going to recoup anything from the 10 years that these people will be getting oil, because they are saying they have to recoup their investment. So you can imagine if the International IEA, International Energy Agency, says that oil will peak by 2035. So So give it, let's say by next year, you start fast oil. Next year is what, 2026?
Yes.
The next 10 years, what will be 2035? So oil will cease to be profitable according to, this is the International Energy Agency, which is always saying things about fossil fuels. It's not influenced in any way by activism or environmentalists. And it says by 2035, oil will peak. And it will only be going down from that point because of the heavy investments in renewable energy. In fact, if you've been following COP, you've noticed that now China is taking lead in climate leadership. Why? Because China's investments in renewable energy is on another scale. So imagine if Uganda in 10 years, when it now wants to start taxing to get revenue from oil, Total says, hey, this thing is no longer competitive, we are leaving. Because there's no clause that is binding them to that project. And also remember, oil is finite. Oil is finite, meaning it is the first few years that you can get the volumes of oil the way you get it. So meaning by that period, 10 years later, because its life cycle is supposed to be 20 to 25 years. Yes. So at 10 years, it's depleted and you've lost the window for getting the revenue. Do you see how this is not a good project at all?
So who do you think is the loser in this?
The host countries. And remember, even as I'm talking to you now, Uganda has had to take more debt to try, because Uganda is also owner through, what is it called? Petroleum African, what is it called? PAU Uganda.
Yeah, Petroleum Authority of Uganda.
The Petroleum Authority of Uganda. So you see, because they're also shareholders, and remember banks are not putting in the money, it has meant that Uganda also must do what? Get loans and borrow. That's how the pipe pumped in 5.7 million 2 months ago. So you see, it's more debt and more debt. And these are things that Uganda will pay for years to come. In the name of development. When we could easily have had investment in solar that, or even renewable energy that can actually, the good thing with renewable energy is that it's not about exporting anything. It's meeting directly the needs of the people and the community at that level. And it's available. That's the thing. Abroad, when they talk about intermittent, that renewable energies are intermittent. We don't have that problem in Africa. We experience that throughout the year. The development capacity of batteries has become enormous, that now that is what is driving even China. We are having now vehicles that could run for like 800 kilometers on a single charge. So you can see how far we've come in terms of storage capacity of solar batteries. So there's no reason whatsoever why Uganda should be locked into fossil fuel dependence path.
Okay. What happens if Total and other financiers or implementers of fossil fuel projects don't respect your demands? If they don't put them into consideration, what happens?
So we'll proceed. The fight takes different forms. The good thing is that we're not just looking at one thing. Sometimes people look at these things from an activism perspective, that we're just doing protest. But remember, we're also in court. We are at the East African Court of Justice, which I think next week, by the way, you should follow that. Next week on the 26th, there will be a ruling in terms of whether the court has jurisdiction to hear that case. Because the Tanzanians have challenged the idea. That's why this case has taken this long. They have challenged the idea that the East African Court of Justice does not have jurisdiction to hear this case. And our argument was that ECOP has transboundary impact. If, let's say, it's passing along the Lake Victoria Basin, and that area also is very prone to seismic issues and the earthquakes around that Rift Valley, because that's the Rift Valley region. So if that, God forbid, there's a serious tremor, like especially on the Tanzanian side, there's so many tremors that keep happening there. So when we are talking about these are realistic situations that if there is a situation where those pipes are disrupted and oil flows and it's cutting across the Lake Victoria Basin and it finds its way into Lake Victoria, we are talking about 40 million people who are going to be impacted. So this is a transboundary impact. That's why it has to be had at that level. So beyond, if they proceed with the issue, as assuming they go ahead with it, we will still continue with the other litigation areas. Remember, they have continued with the Cabo Delgado, right? But are they now not in court? And now they're being charged with war crimes.
Okay.
Because the court is being told that you cannot pretend that the army was acting on its own when you are the one who was paying their salary to be there. So we will find ways. We will find ways of holding Total and CNOOC accountable.
Accountable.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.
Eyes on a Just Energy Transition, a program that unpacks Africa's shift toward cleaner, fairer, and more sustainable energy. Join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. East African Standard Time as we spotlight communities, policies, and voices shaping the continent's energy future. Stay informed, stay empowered. Keep your eyes on a Just Energy Transition. Right here on Witness Radio.
Breaking the silence and elevating community voices. Witness Radio, your number one choice.
You're listening to Eyes on a Just Energy Transition.
And as we wrap up today's episode, you should be reminded that Uganda is on a journey transiting from fossil fuels to renewable energy or clean cooking, and this requires you to embrace the efforts and transform your day-to-day life. And before we end the program, please, if you want to listen to us, visit our website www.witnessradio.org or visit Google Play Store and download the Witness Radio app. And in case you'd like to reach out to us, please chat with us on our WhatsApp +256 745 965 765 or through calling us directly on +256 414 697 221, and we'll hear from you, or on all our social media platforms. Thank you for keeping it locked on Witness Radio. Stay tuned, stay informed, and stay inspired to be part of the energy revolution. Please do not forget that Eyes on a Just Energy Transition airs on Witness Radio every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. East African Standard Time. Catch us again, same time, same radio station. I am Mwiri Stephen, your host.
That was Eyes on a Just Energy Transition, amplifying community voices and keeping justice at the center of Africa's clean energy shift. Join us again next time, and keep your eyes open for change.